years in the film and entertainment industry in various roles. I'm a lawyer by profession and qualification, but I've done all the various things that are listed there across the film industry value chain. And so I'm not going to list them one by one necessarily. But where I want to start very quickly is why we're here. Why are you here? What is your purpose? Why are you here? Your why. You are here because clearly you want to do what you love. That is the reason that you are here. You're here because you have a passion, you have a talent, you have a gift, and that is why you are here. But beyond that, there are certain realities. The realities that often encounter us, those of us that choose to be in the creative industries, we're often encountered with these headlines that, okay, we're here, we're following our passion, but, we mustn't really be expecting to make any decent living out of it. And so, the next slide. This is what I would like you to take with, that you are in show business. And I love how Steve Harvey said this. I'm sure many of you have seen that clip if you follow Steve Harvey on the socials. He made this point that we're in show business, and show business has got two parts. There's the show side of things, which is our passion, our talent, our creativity, but then there's the business side of it. And it is for all of us to chase the best of both. So I wanted that to land and to settle, that we are about finding the fine balance between the show side of things and the business side of things. And so we are in the business of creativity. And so if you are in the business of creativity, managing risk is going to be key for you. It is not something that you can avoid. If you want to be a success in business, you cannot avoid risk. You can't be afraid of risk. Risk you have to manage. For your business to be successful, I love this quote. It says, successful investment is about managing risks. It is not about avoiding risk. You are already in the film business, so you can't go about avoiding the risk, but you've got to manage it. If you're in film production, I've listed some of the risks that come with film production. And there's a whole string of them there. And I'm sure maybe one person can give me an example of risks that you have encountered. I mean, I've got a full list there: fire or accident, injury, liability claims, natural disasters. Have I missed anyone? Has anyone encountered anything on a film set that was a disaster and unexpected? What? Rain, yeah. And it can really be a disaster. And rain is one of those very easier ones. If you go on the next slide, do you guys remember this? Yeah. And we're all glad that we've never encountered it ourselves, because that was one of the very international disasters that to this day, film set disaster that still plagues everyone that was involved in it. And of course, there's so much that you can do about avoiding a disaster, but the best thing you can do is to manage the risk, and you've got to think about the insurance side of things. Insurance simply is the way of managing the risk, and that is the business that I am in. I am in the business of supporting the industry to make sure that they manage the risk that is involved in film production. So I offer advisory services when it comes to film production insurance, which I've listed quite a few of the actual, the kind of cover that you can take in order to cover the various risks that I have listed. Whether, it is the cover that you need to have for your tapes. In fact, I had a client the other day, luckily she had just, she did take the cover with me, but she called me in a panic and said they've just lost 2 days of footage. That's it, gone. When they were moving it, Shangazi, from this to the next or whatever, as I said, you guys are the technical ones. It is gone, and they needed to reshoot, and they needed 2 days. Luckily, they did take the cover, and we paid them out, and they were able to shoot again for 2 days. Unfortunately for them, they were not able to find some of the talent. The other talent had gone. They had to make do with whatever, but certainly they had, at least they had the payout, because otherwise the broadcaster wanted the product delivered. And they were not interested in who did not back up what, and as a result ended up losing the product. If you go to the next slide, I mean, some of the cover that is involved, even the, unexpected damage to property, unexpected, damage to props and sets. Sets have been known to catch fire, and there's been those disasters, and ended up really causing, huge challenges for the production. I mean, the one that is most famous, I mean, public liability. Most famous, but yeah, no one wants to talk about risk. No one wants to talk about these bad things. No one wants to talk about insurance, or legal, as they're going to cover after me. But insurance even more. No one wants to talk about it. But these are the realities that, things happen. People trip. There are cords everywhere on set. Someone trips and they get injured, and next thing, as a production, you are left with a claim, and you find that you end up your whole life's work, your whole 8 years of applying to NFVF and finally getting the funding from NFVF, and a disaster happens and the whole production has to shut down because there is a risk that you did not manage. So the whole point is really just to emphasize that you really have to look at these kind of risks. You can go to the next one. Public liability risk, the risk of, the cars that you hire. And just to say that when you've hired a car for production, when you collect the car from Avis, it is not automatically covered for film production. Because I know most producers, they don't necessarily indicate that the car is going to be used for filming and so on. And yet there is a fine print there in those car hire clauses that if it is used for anything other than private use, the insurance will not cover it. And there you are taking your car, and it's got cameras inside, and it's going to, places, and something happens to it, and you think because you took up insurance with the car hire, it's covered. It is often the case not covered. So these are the things that you've got to think about, and make sure that you plan for them way in advance. And I would say plan for them way in advance. You can go to the next slide. You have to think about them before they come up. That is what I would like to emphasize. Think about insurance even as you are going to apply for funding. Make sure that you've got a line item there for insurance. You've got a line item there for legal. You've got a line item there for those things that are going to cause you a bit of discomfort when you have to action them. So that when you are marching everywhere and looking for money, you are already looking for money that is inclusive of the resources that you're going to need in order to manage this very real risk for yourself. So don't really, most often clients come to me the day before they shoot and say, oh, we're trying to go shoot at a place and we can't because they're asking for public liability. And by then, it's 24 hours to go, because of course, most public places won't allow you to shoot until you've got public liability cover, which of course you can get, but the reality is that what's going to happen is when you get it at that point, it's going to eat out of your already very strained budget. And yet you've got to just think about it even at this point, even before you have any product in place, before you actually have a production, think about how you can make sure that you've got a line item that covers insurance. The next slide just talks about the underwriters, that I personally work with, just to show that I'm not a fly-by-night. And yeah, we do pay out if there is a claim, a valid claim, of course. And the next slide. These are some of the productions that we cover, whether we're doing wildlife. In fact, I was quite fascinated. The team that was here before, I worked with them a few months ago. They were doing a diving production in which I insured. And so we work across genres, whether it's a music video, whether it's a corporate video. We've done a lot of, for commercials, the weather insurance, especially for commercials, is quite key because commercials are very much more time sensitive. If you've got to do a commercial and you've got a braai and the wind has to blow it, whatever not, you've got to take up insurance, because if there's suddenly more wind than you need to, then things are going to happen. So those are the type of things that we work with producers on. There is my contact detail. Hope I lived up to the time. that I was allocated. I did not overextend my welcome in this place, but please do get in touch with me, whether on those social platforms, or that is the email address, and I'll be more than happy to share more. But I've got some flyers there as well, which I will share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you were very, very fast. Like, thank you for sticking to the time. We really appreciate you. But that allowed for 5 minutes of any questions. If anybody has a question, let me get another mic and give you this one. Nice.
Hi.
Hello.
You went a bit too quick there.
Well,
Okay. Fourfold question. I hope you'll be able to squeeze everything in there.
all right.
Right. One, what exclusions do your risk assessments time for a claim?
Okay.
So can you just cover a few exclusions there
Okay.
with everything you've added?
Alright.
The second prong of that question is usually when we work out budgets, we put in about 2% of the overall budget towards insurance. But I think that's an old school way
Yeah.
of doing things, and I'm not sure what standard practice would be now.
Yeah.
Do you look at the value of the budget to determine how much
The
cover
premium?
we get, or how do,
Okay.
and yeah, so that's two. Three, I said it's fourfold. Three, it's when you guys do the underwriting process, is it possible for us to bypass you and go straight to the underwriters, or do we need to work directly with you? And lastly,
Okay.
do you cover all broadcasters?
Okay, all right. Quick one. It is not possible to bypass a broker. It is not possible because most of the underwriters, in terms of legislation, they are not. They can't deal with the insured directly. They have to work through brokers. That is why it's important. You must choose your broker very carefully, because it talks to the second answer that I'm going to give you, that you must get a broker that is willing to journey with you and make you understand what is and what isn't. Because a broker that is just going to say submit the form online, never even sees you, doesn't even know, he says this is a standard form, submit and go, and you don't know what you're not covered for, what are the exclusions, what are the rules, you only find them out at the end. I would say it is more a reflection on the broker. Certainly, and maybe for me, the way I work, that's why I do a lot of presentations in film festivals, because it's about educating. It's about educating. Maybe also because, I'm a lawyer. I don't want to get people to sign anything that they don't understand. And so, wants a bad client. But of course, for most brokers, sometimes it's quicker to just get signed here. And also because filmmakers often come in last minute to get the insurance, and they're shooting tomorrow, and they don't even want to be explained. I've been accused by producers of taking too much of their time, so it goes both ways. So I may not be able to answer all the exclusions here because each production differs, but all I can commit to say that certainly from myself, I take you through detail by detail, and you're going to know beforehand what is covered and what isn't. And I'm even going to give you tips in terms of how you can then make sure that on the ground you need to do your part, what your part is. Because you have to be clear about that. You don't want to find out about your part when you're trying to claim and only find that, no, you were supposed to do backups. You were supposed to record after each night. You were supposed to keep your equipment in a locked up place. You were supposed to make sure that the car you are insuring, is it a car that is used to carry the camera, or is it suddenly a car that is in short? Because a car that is in short is valued differently than a car that is just hiring, that is just moving around people and equipment. So all of those details, you can be sure that I will make sure that I take you through that. And I think there was one other, the 2%, I would say, especially if you're still finding money, go for 5, go between 3.5% and 5%, but definitely not less than 3.5. But of course it depends. If you're going to be blowing up cars and raining every scene, you probably need more than that. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Clap hands. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a wonderful session. No one can overemphasize the importance of insurance. Sometimes when people discover that they need it when they need it, I think it's a bit too late, right? Okay, cool. So let's move on. We are now in that vein of legalities and making sure that you are covered for your productions. We have our next and second final speaker for the day. Say yay! It's finally coming to an end. We hope you've enjoyed. Well, it's a gem-packed. So I'll have the Legal Aid South Africa, am I right? Or Lawyers for Arts. I almost said Legal Aid. Yes, that's a completely different organization that registers lawyers and stuff. Thank you, sir. Please come up on the line. Whilst we settle down and wow. It's been a marathon, guys, isn't it? After this, I'm going to announce, but is this one on? All right, so quick announcement just to give you an idea. After this session, we're going for the art of documentary filmmaking. And fortunately for you, because your brains are